Hello everyone. So today is going to be a very interesting video. The reason I say that is because there is a topic that has been going on that has been debated in a lot of state houses, but recently took effect in North Carolina. For those of you who don't know, North Carolina recently passed a bill called HB2. And what that bill has done is it has allowed the state to dictate not only what bathrooms you go into, but it has allowed the state to say that you could not discriminate against, or you could not sue the state for discrimination. And it was a direct attempt by the state of North Carolina to circumvent a protection law that went into effect in Charlotte. Now, this law set a statewide definition of who is protected, and specifically transgender people were not included, and more specifically transgender people who had not taken the legal steps or the surgical steps to align their gender with what it says on their driver's licenses and birth certificates. Now, this bill was specifically aimed at the transgender community, and it was passed because of this fear of perverts in the bathroom. More specifically, trans male to female people, meaning a man who was transitioning to become a woman, and they used pictures that depicted men in makeup, saying if this man, all he has to do is claim he is transgender and use the same bathroom. Now, to illustrate how silly this bill is, there have been no reported cases of transgendered people attacking anyone in a bathroom in the last 40 years. When you Google Republican sex scandals in bathrooms, can you tell I've done my homework? Over the last 30 years, you get a list of 35 scandals that made national news that forced said Republicans to either abdicate their office or issue a national public apology. Some of the people on this list are notorious people like Newt Gingrich. You have people such as the bathroom incident where he had a wide stance, and you have several Republican senators who had affairs with people in Washington, more specifically their aides. To also illustrate it, there have been more shark attacks, people killed by cows, deers, people that have been mauled by cats and died that way, dogs, and even bear attacks. Then there have been people who have been assaulted by a transgender person in the bathroom. So recently the governor even issued an executive order, but let's break that down. The executive order said that some of these things weren't conducive and repealed some of the things that that law said. However, it doesn't fix the glaring hole for this bill, which is that you are discriminating against an entire class of people who just want to pee. This has nothing to do with the bathrooms and everything to do with people's absolute ignorance on the subject. For instance, one of the major pictures was a woman who was dressed very slutty, and it said, "This man could assault your child." Well, that might be true. And you certainly can't discount that assaults happen in the bathroom. But here's the thing. Transgender people just want a place to pee. And the way they present themselves most, especially on hormones, where their outer appearance is a woman, where they have the long hair, they have the breasts, they have all of the parts except for maybe bottom surgery, or even if they have that, they haven't filed the legal documents yet to change their gender, which has become even more difficult under North Carolina's new bill. In fact, it's almost become downright impossible. But you're telling this person who is a woman, looks like a woman, sounds like a woman, has all the parts of a woman, but says male on their driver's license, that she cannot use the women's bathroom, even though she definitely looks like a female. And on the other side, nobody even mentioned the fact that you are now going to have females, born female, have the female sign on their driver's license, on their birth certificate, that for all intents and purposes looks like a male. Big rugged man, also on Facebook, a big masculine man who you would have never guessed was born a female. Now they have to use the female bathroom. And I guarantee if you ask a woman about that, she might not necessarily be comfortable with somebody who looks like the cover of Abercrombie and Fitch peeing in her bathroom. But that's what this law entails. And my other question has always been, how are they going to enforce this law? It's not addressed in the bill. The only way I can think of that they could possibly address this law is if, like at clubs where you check in, you have to show your driver's license. And to me, that sounds like a bit of a hassle. Especially when you are, like myself when I was younger, and had a few too many, and now you've got to use the bathroom. So really what you're asking is, what is at the core of this problem? And the real issue here is that rather than understand what is going on, rather than try to attempt to understand these groups of people, North Carolina chose a very bigoted approach. And it has cost them. Many states, in fact, I think the last count was over half, or close to it, have banned official travel to North Carolina, meaning that no official travel for governors, senators, anything, nothing is going to North Carolina. You have had businesses like Deutsche Bank, like Disney, pull out of North Carolina. You have had major shows, Cirque du Soleil being the most recent, Bruce Springsteen, and many other people pull out of North Carolina. You have lost, as a state, billions of dollars in revenue because instead of researching what this bill actually does and actually affects, you have now determined the course of your state, and that course is going to cost you billions of dollars. My point here is, rather than making bills like HB2 that are a very thinly veiled, if at all, attempt to discriminate against the transgender people, why don't you actually research what's going on? I understand a lot of us will never have the first-person experience of what it is to be trans. But that doesn't mean that we can't go out and do our research. That doesn't mean that we have to treat trans people as less than the rest of us. Because the fact of the matter is that it was a trans person, coincidentally a trans person of color, who was there and was one of the starters of the Stonewall riots. And they have stood by us every step of the way towards our fight in equality. And it's time that we pick up the banner for them. It's time that we start telling people that enough is enough, because the fact of the matter is stuff like this is sweeping the nation. Georgia was about to consider something. Mississippi has signed something into law that is almost exactly similar. And Kansas itself has a bill on the table that states that a child who rats out another child who may be transgender will receive an award of $2,500. And who the hell do you think is footing that bill? Because Kansas is broke. Us, the taxpayers, are footing that bill. I think it's time that we realize that we are more similar than we are different, and at this point, the differences that we're quibbling over are minute. So, a trans woman wants to use the bathroom. Let them use the bathroom. They're not there to assault you, they're there to pee. And quite frankly, I would rather have a trans male using some of these facilities than some of you men out there. Because at least they keep shit clean. We need to start looking past these small differences and start realizing that the mantra of the Stonewall riots, that the overarching thing is equality for all. And until we can recognize that, we are going to be battling bill after bill. Hopefully you guys look into this. Hopefully you do your research. I'll be posting links to what HB2 is and the executive order, which really did nothing to fix it, so that you can do the research for yourself and realize that bills like this are the problem and only enforce ignorance. And until that ignorance stops, we will never move forward. I know most of y'all that watch this channel don't think like that, but I want you to share this. Pass it on. Educate people. That's how this works, is education. Thank you. And remember, you are all beautiful.